communities and also to create generational wealth. That's why I'm so excited that the Michigan Main Street Initiative for Small Businesses does just that. It answers the call of our small businesses. This series of investments will put critical capital needs into our economy. The $300 million of investments will support key areas like mortgage, rent, payroll, and taxes. And what of a special importance is an earmark of $25 million for businesses with less than 9 employees. These are absolutely the types of businesses that represent over half of businesses here in Michigan, and we also know that are a high percentage of women-owned, people of color, Black and brown business owners. We look forward to working with the governor, our local partners on the ground, entrepreneurs here in our West Michigan community to make sure that we are building back a greater and better Michigan that is equitable and prosperous for all. And with that, it is my great pleasure to welcome the governor of our great state of Michigan, Governor Gretchen Whitmer.
Thank you. Thank you, Melinda. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm really, really happy to be here. This is a great moment and a great part of our state, and I'm always so happy to be back in Grand Rapids. Melinda, thank you for the work that you're doing and for being a part of this today. Grand Rapids Opportunities for Women is such an important effort to support families and small businesses and talk about how we can help working families grow and small businesses as well. Alita, thank you as well. I'm so glad for your leadership, and Jeremiah, glad to be sharing the stage with all of you. I want to recognize Shannon Cohen from Shannon Cohen Inc. and Jermal Eddy, my friend from Malamaya Juice Bar. He explained it to me about his 3 sons when I was in there. Now, it seems like a long time ago now, but anyway, I'm glad you're here. So, thanks to the vaccines, we are seeing life quickly start to return to normal, and that's great news. Over 60% of American adults have gotten their first shots, and here in Michigan, we're pretty close to that number as well. Our recovery continues to pick up steam. Michigan's unemployment rate is now 4.9%, which is a full percentage point below the national average. We have added 968,000 jobs over the past year, and we still have a lot of work to do, no question, but things are moving in the right direction. And I've spoken before about the unprecedented opportunity that we have right now in this moment. It's been a long, hard year, but we are poised for great growth, and we've got huge opportunity in front of us. With billions of dollars from the federal government to aid our recovery, we've now found ourselves where we once predicted we'd be in about a $3 billion shortfall. We now have a $3.5 billion surplus. That's pretty remarkable change of fortunes here in Michigan, which means we've got an opportunity to make some investments in ways that really lift people up, help small business, and help us get back to normal. So today we're here to talk about putting Michigan back to work with better jobs and bigger paychecks. There are 3 broad economic issues that we face as we continue our comeback. One is higher wages. They're necessary to open roles and to attract applicants. 2, small businesses. Small businesses need capital to ramp up hiring and to boost investment in internal operations. And childcare. Childcare remains out of reach for many families with young children who want to return to work but can't. So I'm sure you've heard about each of these challenges individually, but the truth is that all 3 of these things are interconnected. We cannot make meaningful progress in this space unless we address all of them. So today I am outlining steps that we're taking to tackle these 3 challenges and help families and small businesses thrive. So let's begin with paychecks. No one should work a full-time job, 40 hours a week, and still struggle to take care of their family. We can help Michigan's businesses raise wages and attract more applicants for open positions. Demand for nearly everything will increase as life continues to get back to normal. And nearly every business needs to and is working to ramp up operations and to hire people to keep up. So to increase wages, we are proposing the Michigan Bigger Paychecks, My Bigger Paychecks. The plan will ensure that Michiganders earn at least $15 an hour by giving businesses grants to cover the difference between existing hourly rate wage and $15. So the state can help increase those wages, help small business, and certainly help the workforce. The grant would last 3 months, and for the next 3 months, businesses would have a pledge and they would be required to retain the employee and keep the wage at $15 an hour. Now, these grants will be offered on a first-come, first-served basis and include clawback provisions that would go into effect if a business broke their promise to their workers. So this is a great way to solve the problem of elevating wages and getting people back into the workforce and helping small business. We're also proposing a $180 million initiative on 2 fronts. We've got 2 incredible programs here in the state of Michigan that we've created in the last 2 years that will help people upskill. So $180 million that would go toward the Michigan Reconnect and the Futures for Frontliners will make a huge difference. These programs are already helping about 200,000 people in our state get the skills so that they can get into better paying jobs. So $120 million of this 180 would go to the Michigan Reconnect. And that gives Michiganders who are 25 and up the opportunity for a tuition-free path to a credential, a community college, a certificate, an associate's degree. And $60 million of the 180 will go to Futures for Frontliners, which puts workers who've been on the front lines of this pandemic, gives them a tuition-free path to upskilling as well. So by bumping up pay and increasing educational and skills opportunities for workers, we can entice more people back into the workforce and to increase our labor participation rate. Now I want to talk about small businesses. I want to start by showing gratitude for the ingenuity and innovation of our incredible business community here in Michigan. They have stepped up in remarkable ways through the pandemic, and I know that they have kept their employees and customers and communities safe and helped them get through what was a tough time for every one of us. As we put COVID behind us, we need to ensure that businesses have what they need so that they can be successful and have a recovery and create a robust business investment and involvement that is complete and whole for all. So we want to put $300 million into 3 buckets that we are calling the Michigan Main Street Initiative. $100 million toward restaurants and other place-based businesses to help them cover costs and meet payroll. This would include grants of up to $20,000 for mortgage or rent or taxes or payroll or operating expenses. This is building on last year's successful deployment of resources through the CARES Act. We're dedicating $125 million to small businesses who've been left out of other incentives that we have been able to provide and organizations that support them. So this includes grants for community development financial institutions, or CDFIs, who provide loans to businesses that have been unable to access federal PPP loans. Grants specifically for businesses with less than 9 employees, which is more than half of the businesses here in Michigan, as Melinda said. Many of these smaller firms have had issues accessing capital through traditional programs, and we're really proud to be able to tailor resources specifically to help them succeed. And finally, we would include $75 million in grants for startups. Now, this would include $50,000 community planning grants to help design the ecosystem based on the needs and gaps of a particular location. The establishment of a new business fund also will help cover some of the basic costs of starting a business. And we are proposing expanding Michigan's WorkShare program. Now, this is a tool that a lot of employers have used through the pandemic to avoid laying off their workforce. Now, that same program can be used by businesses to bring on new employees and help them restart. So Michigan has led the nation in WorkShare. We're really proud of this. We helped a lot of businesses because of our aggressive deployment. WorkShare is still available for businesses who want to bring their employees back that they had to lay off part-time. So, in fact, our WorkShare saved nearly 100,000 jobs this last year. That's a big deal. If the legislature acts, however, businesses will also be able to bring in new employees part-time without them losing their unemployment benefits. So this is a creative way to help piece together all these supports to help our workforce and families. This would significantly help with the hiring crunch that a lot of businesses across our state are facing, and would bring unemployed workers back into the workforce as they transition out of unemployment. And also this month, a waiver on work search requirements and for unemployment benefits expires, and so people are doing the search and trying to get back into the workforce, and that's something I think is important for people to know. We want to hire additional staff to help Michiganders get back into the workforce. So finally, the third piece that I wanted to talk about is childcare. Because we know that there are working family members who are not returning to the workforce because they don't have childcare. They're worried about their kids. This pandemic has been hard on every one of us, and certainly while kids are resilient, they have felt the stress of it as well. And working parents, especially women, have been forced to reduce their hours or leave the workforce to take care of kids. Some are doing a double shift, working their day job and then trying to support virtual schooling. Neither of these is really sustainable in the long run. So Michigan needs our families to succeed, and regardless of whether a child is 12 months old or 12 years old, working parents cannot work or pursue work without high quality, affordable child care. And that's why in my budget, I proposed $370 million so that we could expand access to low or no cost child care for 150,000 Michigan families. We would keep providers open by providing federal stimulus and increasing child care subsidy rates. And we'd help schools open safely in person 5 days a week this fall. These are all important components of getting our workforce back. Every family has to make difficult decisions about who cares for the kids and how that gets pieced together when they are also need to put food on the table. It's our job to make sure that every family has a good choice that meets their needs and fits their budget. In the coming weeks, we'll continue to lay out more information on bold investments in childcare. And the forthcoming plan is going to keep facilities open and open up new sites and communities that don't currently have enough options. And I'll demonstrate how we can make more care available while raising pay for the professionals who care for our kids. We'll also detail our work on expanding access to high-quality preschool through the Great Start Readiness program, and emphasize our goal of having schools open safely in person 5 days a week this fall. I'll have a lot more to say about these things soon, but I wanted to mention it today because it is a part of this broader goal of helping people get back to work. By taking full stock of the challenges that we face, we can address them effectively and build Michigan back better after this pandemic. There's reason to feel hope, right? Our COVID cases and deaths and unemployment rates are down. Vaccinations and job growth and consumer and small business confidence is up. We have so much possibility in front of us. And with the Michigan Economic Jumpstart Plan, we can harness that energy and channel it to raise wages, invest in small businesses, and uplift families. So I look forward to engaging with the legislature and local communities and Michiganders across our state as we continue thinking through the best ways to use federal funds and our state's surplus to turbocharge our economic recovery. I'm feeling optimistic about our future, there's no question, and I'm looking forward to delivering on all these fronts for the people of our state. We deserve no less, and this transcends any partisan lines. Getting our economy back up in a way that lifts all people in our state is good for everyone in this state. So thank you so much for participating. I really appreciate your leadership. Jeremiah, am I handing it over to you, right? All right.
Well, thank you, Governor Whitmer, for your leadership and the programs you've highlighted today. Thank you, Grow, for hosting us and the businesses that are here, and the community of Grand Rapids for sticking with us in these last trying times over the last year and a half, and as we continue to come out. But I want to reiterate a couple things. From the Office of Economic Development, our job is to make sure that we create with partners solid conditions to increase and retain jobs and investment in our community. And the programs that are highlighted today and the programs that we've implemented already as a city and we will continue to do from our Economic Development Office as well as with partners like GROW is to make sure that we remove those barriers and those challenges that the small businesses face and that are unique to their businesses, that are unique to their families, and most importantly, that result in jobs and investment. Because one of the greatest things that we believe that you can provide someone is a great paying job. And so what I know today is that certainly the wage rates that the governor has laid out today, I'm proud to say that that is in alignment with our equitable economic development and mobility strategic plan. That $15 an hour wage is in our plan. We've been focused on those wages for over a year and a half. We will continue to do that in our strategic plan, making sure that we help businesses through the programs that the governor has highlighted today and through other means to put them in the best position to be able to do that and hire as many folks and, more importantly, expand their businesses and start their businesses in these times. And I must admit, while we've had a lot of challenges over the last year and a half, we've also had great success in business startups and folks that have really stayed the course. And in fact, you'll hear from one when I'm finished that has started this business in the middle of these trying times. But it's really important to understand that we have momentum in this city, we have momentum in this state, in this region, and we're committed to making sure that we are competitive not only in the Midwest, but truly globally, and making sure that that Western Michigan, and specifically Grand Rapids, is a place where folks from all across the world say, I don't know what's happening in Grand Rapids, but I know I need to be there because of the success stories that I've heard from businesses, friends, family, and frankly, I'm looking for a job, and I know that there's jobs available, and they're going to be paying fair wages as we've highlighted today. What I also want to reiterate is from our office and the economic development team is that we are committed to meeting with our businesses one-on-one as things continue to open up in their spaces, in their neighborhoods, learning about their story, personal stories of starting a business, how they got there, what their plans are for expansion, what challenges they have, and how we can align them with those programs, and more importantly, just invite them to the table and have the right connections to make sure that they can continue to grow, invest, hire folks at sustainable, at fair wages, and remove some barriers for folks that have that are removed with a fair paying wage job. And so I want to thank again the governor for her leadership, the legislature, our city commission, our city manager, as well as GROW and many other partners that are too long to list. But thank you for giving us the opportunity to be leaders within this space, and we look forward to growing the economy here and building momentum and telling you a great story in the future. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lita for her story. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Alita Kelly and I am the founder of Southeast Market, a grocery store on the southeast side of Grand Rapids that operates through a sustainable and equitable lens. Southeast Market began as a dream to a tangible solution to food, environmental, and social justice issues I experienced and witnessed here in our community. During the pandemic, my business partner, Kara DeWitt, and I decided to invest ourselves into the answer to food apartheid and climate change by opening up Southeast Market. We took a chance despite blatant hurdles ahead of us as young mothers and women of color. We know we're not alone facing these obstacles. Many in our small business community also struggled to attract applicants with modest wages, the modest wages that small businesses can usually afford despite the pandemic. We see possibility in what could happen with additional capital for internal operations, but are separated from the resources to bring our strategic plans into fruition. Southeast Market was birthed during the pandemic, which means we were not eligible for many opportunities available to businesses in operation before the pandemic began. Today, I'm grateful to learn about Governor Whitmer's plan, which includes support for businesses like ours. Through the Michigan Micro Enterprise Support Initiative and the Michigan Small Business Smart Zone, Business Accelerator, and Resiliency Initiative. We're really looking forward to taking advantage of some of those programs. With 41% of Black businesses closing during the pandemic, it's important now more than ever that we not just restart, but reimagine an economy that works for all of us. We have an opportunity to be agile, to incorporate diversity and sustainability into the core of how Michigan does business. Governor Whitmer's plan today acknowledges the essential role of childcare and fair wages and how they play in the resilient, thriving economy of the future. We're grateful to our supportive community, staff, customers, and entities like Grand Rapids Opportunity for Women who have supported us since the beginning. We're excited to get to work empowering an economy more equitable and sustainable than the one we knew before.
Yeah, hey everyone, so we now have just a few minutes for questions and answers with the governor or any of our other speakers about Michigan's economic jumpstart programs.
Governor, this morning the House Oversight Committee held a hearing about a report that the state may have under common debts and long-term care facilities. Do you have any reason to believe that debts may have been under common debt?
Well, let me start with this. We built systems in the middle of a crisis to try to make sure that we had all of our organizations talking to one another on technology, and certainly we've had to make adjustments along the way to ensure that it's accurate and that we improve these systems. The self-reporting from some of our nursing homes, I think, came in staggered numbers, and people are going back and assessing to make sure that we have accurate counts, but I think every state in the nation is confronting this to some extent. I've got great confidence that ours are close, but certainly in the middle of everything that the world was confronting, there have been improvements along the way and have had to be improvements along the way. Yeah, Rick?
In the programs you described this morning, how much of that money is already available, and how much of that needs to be appropriated and is part of the budget negotiation that's ongoing?
Some of this is in the budget. So the child care piece was in my proposed budget, $370 million. The small business relief to help boost wages, would be some of the American Rescue Plan money that we're thankful from the Biden administration got over the finish line and has sent to Michigan and every state in the nation. So there's a little bit in each part. Hopefully we can get the legislature to do their appropriation job, and so we can deploy these resources, and this would be a great way to make sure that they get into communities and into our economy in a way that lifts people up as we recover from COVID.
But the legislature would have to approve these funds to lead to the CARES Act.
The legislature has an important role in all of this, right? I mean, we've had billions of dollars that were sent to our state over 6 months ago that they still haven't completely appropriated. Every day that they are not deployed are days that businesses that are looking for workers could use some help. And so certainly they have an important role here, and I'm hopeful that they will get that process going. Yeah, Eric?
And as part of this plan, you had mentioned a plan where part-time workers can still get their unemployment benefits. One of the biggest issues we've been hearing about is finding workers for these companies. If full-time jobs are available, why not incentivize workers to go towards those instead of part-time ones?
There's an incentive in here for that as well, Eric. So we're encouraging, we want to make sure that we are giving people all of the incentives to get back to work so that they can take care of themselves and their families and not forego other opportunities that can help them get back on their feet. So you see a lot of states just kind of taking away help for people who are struggling. We don't think that's, makes a lot of sense in this environment. We want to help businesses pay greater wages so that there's a real incentive for people to jump back in. We also know that child care is a barrier. If you are worried about what's going to happen with your kids if you go back to work, that's a complete barrier for a lot of people in our state, and that's one of the aspects why this Jumpstart plan really is comprehensive and not, one thing that is solving a problem that's got a lot of aspects to it. Yeah, Beth?
Governor, the House Appropriations Chair has said he doesn't want to use federal funding for temporary programs or things that you'll have to sustain in the long term. It seems like these programs would fall into that after the money runs out, something will have to step in to keep that wage at $15 per hour. Do you
This is a 6-month plan to raise wages and get people back into the workforce. The market will drive what happens thereafter, but this is our opportunity to support businesses getting back on their feet and critically support the people that do the hard work who need to take care of their families. I know that there's a lot of rhetoric that comes out of the Capitol, but these are permissible uses of these dollars. Unlike some of the proposals that have come out of the Capitol, we can actually do this with these resources and think that this is a great way to support people, support families, and help small businesses too. Yeah.
Governor, you mentioned that this transcends partisan politics, and you said the legislature has a role to play. Have you had any feedback from Republican leadership in the Capitol about this particular plan?
Well, there's a lot of conversation around supporting businesses and helping people get back into the workforce, and that's why I think that this could be one of those issues that transcends the partisan politics that seem to permeate everything these days. The business community, I think, sees great value here. We've worked with a lot of different stakeholders to put this together, and I think this is a really smart solution to a problem that is universal. We want to make sure that as we solve it, we're actually helping people in the process. So I did have a meeting with the legislative leaders this morning. We talked about a variety of issues. We didn't specifically talk about this, but I know that we have shared a lot of the information that we've shared today, and we'll continue to do that.
We have time for 2 more economic questions.
Yeah, Governor, when it comes to these programs, I know employers are having a hard time filling some of these open positions. Some other states, I think 20 now have considered or have actually dropped these extra unemployment benefits from the federal government. Are you considering that at all here in Michigan?
So, I think that the reaction to just simply pulling the supports away from people, I think we have yet to see whether or not that changes what's happening. Michigan's unemployment rate is actually a percentage lower than the national average. Our philosophy is that we know that there are a lot of reasons that people aren't jumping back into certain jobs in our economy. One of the reasons is childcare. Another reason is fear. COVID has, I think, had a huge impact on all of our lives in profound ways, and that's an aspect to it. That's why we want to continue to push toward getting 70% of our population inoculated. That's when we get to herd immunity, and that's why it's so important, the efforts that are being done here in Grand Rapids and across the state to get into communities where people aren't able to go to a large vaccination center like we were able to run with Spectrum at DeVos. It was a phenomenal undertaking, but now the work of meeting people where they're at is that much harder, but it's also that much more important. So these are all important aspects to us getting people back into the workforce.
1 more question.
Yeah.
Governor, so the money is good that's coming in. As a small business owner, this year I've never paid so much in taxes. And so has there been any conversation on how to reduce the taxable income that these grants are causing small businesses? And yes, some small businesses haven't been told or informed that these grants are taxed. So I'm wondering, is there any conversation on how we may, as a state, be able to reduce the taxable income for grants that are made to help businesses, but in the end, it ends up hurting businesses when they can't pay the income tax?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And one of the ways that we can use these resources is to address that tax burden. So that was a thoughtful addition into what we've announced today, because we recognize that, we've learned a lot, right? Business has learned a lot. Government has learned a lot. Every one of us has. And so that was one way that we were trying to improve the ability for small business to get through this tough time. Thank you.
That's all the time we have.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.